It is Thanksgiving week. We are looking forward into NFL Week 12, coming fresh off of NFL Week 11. Guys, we appreciate you being here. And we will not have Brendan today for NFL show, so I apologize. There's a lot of traveling going on for the holidays, so we were without him. I'm going to fly solo on this show. If you don't know who we are Stathletics. We love football. We love analytics that goes behind it, and then we love to dabble in sports betting a little bit. So again, we appreciate you being here. We're doing a Thanksgiving special. We got 3 games on Thanksgiving Day. We got a first ever Black Friday game, and then we got a couple of big games on Sunday that we also want to briefly break down for you guys as well. We're going to, touch on some of the highlights of each team, give our projection, and then go from there. So, again, looking forward to it. Appreciate you guys being here. We're just going to dive right head first into it. Packers go to the Lions for Thanksgiving special. Lions are 7.5-point home favorites. Packers did just lose Aaron Jones for a while. Looks like he has an MCL issue, so they're going to be without one of their top players on the offensive side of the ball. So tough for them. Lions coming off of a really, really impressive comeback win against the Bears. Now, impressive that they were able to get it together and come back, but not really impressive by the win itself. They were picked to beat the Bears pretty handily. The Bears were actually ahead by, 2 possessions at one point. So Lions, they have to kind of rally. They were coming off the bye last week, so maybe they were looking ahead a little bit and didn't treat the Bears as a worthy opponent. But hey, they pulled out the win. They got what they needed, and they were able to execute when it really mattered. So not taking too much away from that game. I think they were kind of sleepwalking into it a little bit. I imagine they, can get it together and they can rally for when it matters. There's really no team that is, more well-rounded in the NFL outside of the 49ers, maybe the Eagles and the Ravens, of course. But, in terms of both offensive and defensively, the Lions are really just firing on all cylinders right now. So I think they can get it together. I expect them to be well prepared for this primetime game on Thanksgiving Day. So at 7.5-point favorites, the point total is also at 47. I will say the projections are a little heavier on the Lions than what Vegas is, especially at home in the Dome. I think what's really coming into factor is the Lions are worth, 2 or 3 more points at home than they are away. So model certainly leans in favor of the Lions. And I kind of agree, I think it's sitting at like 10.9 or 11. So, it says a good touchdown or a field goal. I imagine that that's very, very doable, especially you look at some of the metrics. Detroit, they're the 6th best team in terms of offensive EPA generated per play. Detroit's Green Bay 15th. They're not bad, but they're certainly not top half of the league, or top third of the league. Offensive EPA allowed, Detroit 12th on defense side of the ball. Green Bay 25th. So that's where the discrepancy is. I think, especially at home in the Dome, I think the Lions really generate some offensive production and really drive against this Green Bay team. I just don't see the Packers really stopping the Lions in the Dome in Detroit. I do think this Packers team has the ability to keep up with most teams, but right now we're just not seeing them click. Christian Watson, he's been injured. He's not been the weapon that Packers have expected him to be. We're seeing some rookies, Dontavian Wicks, Jaden Reed, they're kind of coming to life a little bit. But, with the blow to Aaron Jones, it just doesn't seem like they're going to be able to pace this Lions team who just got David Montgomery back, who just traded for Donovan Peoples-Jones, who really seems like Jameson Williams getting in his stride. And, of course, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta. The talent mismatch is too great for me to think that the Lions won't be able to pull away. So, with that being said, let's look into some of the betting splits here. Looking at Action Network and kind of what they're tracking, 44% of the bets are on Green Bay, but only 29% of the handle is on Green Bay. So a full 70% of the money is on the Lions right now. That's a good 15% differential. I expected nothing less. I really think the public's going to favor as well, but that doesn't really pull me in one direction or the other. I really do think the Lions get it done at home. So looking forward to that one. That's going to be, I think, the best one on the slate for Thanksgiving. All right. Commanders go to the Cowboys. Cowboys are favored by a full 11 points. Point total sitting right at 48.5. Our projections really like the Cowboys in this one. And it really has the Cowboys by 2 touchdowns. So the 11 points, I think, I understand it just because it's a primetime game. The Commanders do air it out more than anybody. So if those deep balls hit, if their offense starts to click, then they can keep it close. But there's really no team better at home than the Cowboys. They're averaging the points per game averaged at home for the Cowboys is near over a full touchdown. So this team at home versus away is night and day. And then the Cowboys defense, we all know how they are. They're one of the top in the league. And it really seems like this offense is coming together. CeeDee Lamb is putting together an offensive MVP caliber type year. So he seems unstoppable right now. So with the Cowboys coming in, firing on all cylinders, and then the Commanders, they're coming off of a tough loss last week to the Giants. That really was a blow. I mean, for a team that felt kind of promising at the starting of the season, it stinks that they're kind of blowing this. And I was shocked that they traded Chase Young and Montez Sweat because now their defense is just it's abysmal. There's no easy way to explain it. I mean, their passing defense was already ridiculous. And so at this point, with how bad their defense is, with the lack of depth that they have on that side of the ball, I don't see Dallas, really being stopped. Maybe if they, drain the clock and run the clock out, sure. But Dallas has one of the highest pass rate over expectation in the entire NFL right now. So not only, are they one of the premier passing teams in the league, but even in situations where one would expect them to run the ball, they're still passing. So I expect points to come easily for the Cowboys. And I expect them to really come difficult for the Commanders just due to the nature of Dallas's defense. Offensive EPA per play, Dallas is 4th in the league. Commanders are 22nd right now. If we flip that over on the defensive side of the ball, Dallas is 3rd in the league in offensive EPA per play allowed. Commanders 30th. So not good. I think the only reason this line isn't even bigger is because it's a primetime game. Naturally, we expect games to be a little bit closer. Teams perform a little bit better. It's just kind of the lay of the land, it feels like. So, and it is a divisional rivalry game in essence. I guess you could call it that. But I think Dallas rules here. I think Dallas wins by 17 when it's all said and done. I just don't think this one will be close. Looking at the betting splits, I think kind of the public thinks that too. Except I will say some heavy money is coming in on the Commanders. 41% of the total bets are on the Commanders, but 60% of the total money is on the Commanders. So some heavy money coming in on the Commanders. However, the majority of the people placing bets on this game are placing it in favor of Dallas. But for me personally, I'm riding with the projections. I'm riding with the model. Dallas by 2 touchdowns or more. I just don't see it any other way. All right, guys. Hey, before we jump on to the last game on Thanksgiving, please make sure to like and subscribe to the video. This is not our traditional video. We normally do this with it in a team and a duo. For those of you who are regulars, we have Brendan, of course. But again, we always do the projections. We do the big game breakdowns, and we walk through kind of the momentum of each team and break it down the best of our ability. So, and again, if you enjoy the stats and the games and the projections of everything, this is the place to be. We appreciate you guys watching, so make sure to like and subscribe. And of course, comment your favorite picks. We love to know what bets your guys are taking. It's always fun, whether it's a player prop, spread, total, whatever it may be. Let us know what you're taking. We love seeing what everybody else has cooked up on the books. All right, stepping over to the last game of Thanksgiving, we have an NFC West division rivalry. 49ers go to the 12th man, play the Seahawks. Seahawks are +7 home underdogs. So, the 49ers are favored by a full touchdown going into the Seahawks house. I will say, partially due to the fact that, there's a big question mark around Geno Smith right now. And the fact that he's injured, he had that elbow issue in last week's game against the Rams. And he did come back, but he certainly didn't look 100%. And Pete Carroll is kind of the notion that he could potentially sit out to try and rest that elbow. So Seahawks +7 at home, 43-point total. The projections do have Seahawks +6, give or take. So right around that, but not the full touchdown. So it's close. Nothing really for me to kind of take away from it. 49ers are rolling, man. They just beat the Tampa Bay Bucks pretty handily, and especially with the uncertainty of the Seahawks quarterback, it's just tough. And they also lost Kenneth Walker, so that's another thing I had in my notes. They're kind of depleted on the offensive side of the ball. Tyler Lockett did play, but he came in with a injured hamstring, and he certainly didn't play as much as he used to. He only played about 50% of the snaps that day. So Seahawks offense banged up pretty good. So I'm still waiting to kind of see what the injury report looks like and who they hold out. So I would be shocked if Kenneth Walker played, but I'm kind of expecting Geno to play, but I wouldn't also be shocked if he didn't. So this one's kind of a hazy scenario with the quarterback on the Seahawks side of the ball. What the Seahawks do have going for them is it is in Seattle, so of course that always bodes well for any NFL team that has a home field advantage. But looking at it, man, the 49ers are the most efficient team in football on the offensive side of the ball. First overall in offensive EPA per play allowed, or offensive EPA per play, Seahawks 11th. They're a top 12 team in the league, but certainly nowhere close to the 49ers. And then, of course, the defense for the 49ers is just as good. 4th overall in offensive EPA per play allowed. Seahawks 14th. Again, the projections are right around this Vegas number. And this is kind of a wait and see for me. I originally would like Seahawks to keep it close. I think they would keep it within like 4 if I knew that their team was going to be healthy. But because there's a lot of uncertainty. And I think that after the 49ers bye week really did them well. I think they go into Seattle, and I think they handle business, and I think they win by 10. I think that they're the hot team right now. The momentum's going in their favor, contrarian to the Seahawks. And, looking at some of the betting splits, I don't see anything crazy. But 75% of the bets and the handle are on the 49ers. There's no real differential for me to want to like change anything, but that's just kind of what the public is doing if you're interested in that kind of thing. So, but for me personally, I like the 49ers to win outright, of course, and I like the 49ers to win by 10. So that'll be a fun one. I think it'll be sneaky good, depending on the health of Geno Smith. Okay. Dolphins. They go to the Jets. Jets are finally replacing Zach Wilson with Tim Boyle, so we do get a new quarterback. However, I don't think it's going to be much of an upgrade, if any upgrade at all. Unfortunately, the Jets have a lot more problems that they need to address outside of the quarterback situation, but nonetheless, we get a new face quarterbacking the Jets this week. Jets are 10-point home underdogs against this Dolphins team. Low point total, though, 41 overall point total. So it kind of really just Vegas expects the Dolphins to score a lot and the Jets to score a little naturally. So first ever Black Friday game. It's going to be fun. I'm glad they're doing it this way. I love football, so the more football we have, the better. It's hard for me to even get on the Jets here, man. All of their metrics, all of their stats, it's pretty bad. And the projections also are on the Dolphins as well. It likes the Dolphins by a little under 2 touchdowns. And I see why. I mean, the Jets haven't done anything to make anybody believe anything else. And the fact of the matter is, let's say if Tim Boyle's no better than Zach Wilson, and he gets out there and he only scores 10 points. He only gets the offense going enough to score 10 points. Well, the Dolphins only need to score 24 to handily cover that spread and meet the projections. So I know that the Jets defense is really good. They have actually one of the best passing defense in the league right now. But is it enough to stop Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, and the running back duo? Now, Devon Achane did go back out with the knee injury, but they still have Raheem Mostert. They still have Jeff Wilson. They still have Salvon Ahmed. So I don't expect this team to really slow down. I mean, they do struggle against good teams, but I think with the inability for the Jets to move the ball, they're not going to really have any pressure to continue to score. So I think they're going to be able to get creative and get really, really aggressive with their play calling. I know Mike McDaniel really always errs on the side of aggressiveness, but I think they're going to be even more so aggressive and be able to make plays against this stout Jets defense. I mean, third overall in the league in offensive EPA per play. That's nothing new. Jets are dead last in offensive EPA per play. I don't expect a new quarterback to change that whatsoever. Now, EPA allowed, Jets are 7th in the league, Dolphins 16th in the league. Middle of the road for the Dolphins, a little bit, a little less than midway in the league, but Jets, of course, they have a top 10 defense. That's not surprising to me whatsoever. We expected that. Jets also, they're top 10 in total yards allowed, top 5 in passing yards allowed. But I just, I think the Dolphins handle business in prime time. And I don't think the Jets' issues are solved by a backup quarterback. So, tough scenes if you're a Jets fan. It really does suck because they have the pieces to be a contender and absolutely make the playoffs. We'll see if Aaron Rodgers can get it done and breach his Achilles injury way before everyone expected him to, but it's kind of wishful thinking at this point. So I would love to see it. It would be awesome, but, I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it. As for now, this Jets team, they have a lot going on that they got to fix. So at the end of the day, it's more than just one player that really affects the outcome of your team. And I think the Jets will continue to get exposed for that until they kind of clean up a little bit. So moving on to Sunday, we have 3 games that we want to briefly touch on real quick. And one of the big ones, Bills go to Philadelphia and play the Eagles. The Eagles coming off of a win against the Chiefs. And it was impressive, but, again, it wasn't a convincing win. The Chiefs really should have won. MVS dropped a wide open touchdown. It felt like Patrick Mahomes had really no favors from anybody. Even Travis Kelce had a pretty blatant drop in that game in the second half. So Eagles coming off of a win, convincing, not so sure, but it gets the job done. It was against a really good Chiefs defense, so they deserve credit for that. Bills, they're struggling, man. They had their loss to the Broncos a couple weeks ago. They're sitting right around 500. It's, definitely not living up to the expectations, to say the least. Eagles 3.5-point home favorites. Point total sitting right around 48.5. That's one of the higher point totals in the league, especially on Sunday for week 12. But nonetheless, projections really like the Eagles here. They actually like the Eagles by almost a full touchdown. So I think it's 6.1 for the Eagles. The Bills' defense is just really bad. There's, not a nice way to put it. And it's mainly due to the number of injuries that they've had on the defensive side of the ball. If you guys remember the overseas game in which they played the Jaguars, they had 3 crucial injuries on the defense side of the ball, notably to Matt Milano, who's like the centerpiece of that defense. So their defense is struggling. If we really want to look into the numbers, their offensive EPA per play allowed, the Eagles are 8th, the Bills are 20th. So definitely not the Bills team that we have known in the past. Especially in the passing game. They're actually 29th in the league in passing yards allowed compared to the Eagles, who sit top 12. Total points allowed, Eagles 3rd, Bills 19th. It's just not the same on the defense side of the ball. So I think the Eagles at home are going to be able to expose that a little bit. I think they're going to get A.J. Brown back on track after he had a tough game against the Chiefs, Devontae Smith going. And, I think they're going to open up the floodgates in the passing game and expose the Bills' secondary. Offensive EPA, Philadelphia, second in the NFL. Bills, fifth. So, I mean, it's going to be an offensive bout for sure, but I think that the Philadelphia Eagles defense at home especially is going to be able to hold their ground and allow for the Philadelphia Eagles offense to pull away. So I trust the projections. I really like them at 6. So I think they can really get the 3.5 point spread done. Let's look at some of the betting splits. 70% of the bets are on the Bills. 80% of the handle is on the Bills. So I'm not so sure why the public is really heavy on the Bills, especially in Philadelphia. If this one was in Buffalo, I would, be thinking twice. And then, of course, it would more be like, Philadelphia -1 or maybe even a pick even. It's probably giving 3 points to the Eagles for home field advantage. So if it was in Buffalo, it'd be not flip-flopped, but it would certainly be more in the Bills' favor than maybe the Eagles. So, but yeah, majority of the handle, majority of the public, they're all on Buffalo. Kind of surprising, but makes me feel a little bit better. This is a fade the public pick. I'll be happy to ride it. I will be trusting the projections, taking the Eagles. Moving on, Ravens go to the Chargers. Chargers just cannot seem to win the close ones. They can't get it together and put both the offense and defensive play together. Justin Herbert, man, he's really, being let down by his receivers. It can't be fun for him right now. Quentin Johnson and Keenan Allen had, both of them had a touchdown drop, assuming that Quentin Johnson would have caught it and kept running. But, it just seems like, what's his name? Gosh, my head's going 100 million places right now without Brendan. It makes it hard to navigate. But Justin Herbert really is doing the most right now. He has no help, it feels like. But, it is what it is. They can still score and keep it close. I was actually kind of surprised at this line. I felt like it would have been Ravens -5. But for some reason, the projections also like the Chargers to keep it close. It actually only has the Ravens by, 1 point, which I did not expect whatsoever. I know that the Chargers or the Ravens defense is superior to the Chargers. And I thought it would do a better job of maybe containing the Chargers offense, whereas the Chargers defense would not be able to really contain the Ravens offense. So I was really surprised by the projections and what they had to say. Looking at some of the numbers, the Chargers are actually a more efficient team on the offensive side of the ball than the Ravens. Barely, but still more. Offensive EPA per play, Chargers are 7th in the league. Baltimore is 8th in the league. Now, one thing the Ravens do well is they rush the ball really well. They have the most total rushing yards in the entire league, whereas the Chargers, they sit about 18th. They're definitely more pass happy, but they do have a top 5 pass rate over expectations. The Chargers do. But yeah, I mean, total points per game. Baltimore leads that charge in 4th in the league, but Chargers are close behind them at 8th in the league. So it could be a high scoring game, but that's kind of represented in the total. It's tied for one of the highest total games on the slate at 47, 48 on some books. So certainly up there, but offensive EPA per play allowed. Baltimore 2nd, Chargers 28th. That's the deficiency, and that's where the Chargers may struggle a little bit. The Ravens, we know that they have a lot of weapons. They did just lose Mark Andrews, but I expect Isaiah Likely to step in and pick it up. What does bode well for them is they're a top 12 team in rushing defense. They're 12th overall in rushing yards allowed. Passing yards allowed is where it's really bad for the Chargers. They're actually dead last in the league. So Maybe Baltimore can get it going in the air. We'll see if Lamar can do it. I certainly think he can, especially with Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham. It's not the best wide receiver core, but it's sufficient. And I think Lamar is a really underrated arm talent in the league. And a lot of people would disagree with me with that, but so be it. The numbers don't lie, and I fully expect the Ravens to go in here and handle business. I was surprised at the projections. I might have to fade the projections because I think the Baltimores could win by a good touchdown here, and that's kind of what I'm going to ride personally. But if you want to ride the projections, go for it. Now, nonetheless, I do think Baltimore wins. Looking at some of the betting splits, nothing crazy. I do see a little bit of a differential in favor of Baltimore. So 64% of the public is on the Chargers. However, 43% of the money of the handle is on the Chargers. So that's a plus 21% differential for Baltimore. So there's potentially sharp money, heavy money coming in on Baltimore. And I kind of favor that. If the line goes down because the public's betting it up, I may, get some points and buy it at Baltimore -3. But, again, if you trust the projections, so be it. It'll certainly be a fun game, to say the least. So, last game we wanted to briefly discuss and go over the projections with Jaguars. Go to the Texans. CJ Stroud's playing better than really any quarterback in the league right now. He certainly deserves to be in the MVP consideration, and I will die on that hill. I will argue anybody that he's playing as good, if not better, than all the quarterbacks in the league. Who's putting up better numbers? Who's more valuable to their team than CJ Stroud? Hardly anybody. It just really doesn't feel that way. So CJ Stroud having a phenomenal rookie year. Jaguars, they're coming off of a great win against the Titans. They really kind of let the floodgates loose with their passing game. Calvin Ridley finally balled out for my fantasy team. Thank goodness. Long time coming. But Texans, they're 1.5-point home underdogs. The point total, one of the highest on the slates as well, 48.5 points. And the projections actually like the Texans to win by a field goal. And I'm with the projections here. I think the Texans win outright, and I will be taking Texans money line. Now, a lot of people would argue with me just due to the kind of sheer talent on the offensive side of the ball for the Jaguars, and the defense is a sneaky team or a sneaky unit for the Jags. If we look at some of the numbers, Jacksonville is a top 10 team in offensive EPA per play allowed, sitting at 10. Houston's 19th in offensive EPA per play allowed. Rushing yards allowed, Jacksonville's 4th in the league. Houston 8th. Passing yards allowed is really where they get it. And that's where I think this, really where CJ Stroud can attack. Passing yards allowed in the league. Jaguars are 28th. So, albeit their defense is really good, especially their run defense, rushing yards allowed 4th, they don't really run the ball that much. CJ Stroud has been commanding this offense at the helm of his arm. I think that's what happens. I think CJ Stroud exposes the secondary really, really well. And he's got Nico Collins back. He's got Tank Dell rolling, Dalton Schultz rolling. Devin Singletary actually looks like a feasible running back now. I think the Texans win at home. They're in the race for this division. I think they win at home. I'm riding with the projections on this one. I love this Houston Texans team. I'm not fully bought into this Jags team yet. So let's take a look at some of the numbers. I'm curious to see the behavior of the public on this one. 56% of the bets are on the Jags, but only 27% of the handle is on the Jags. So that's a plus 28% differential in favor of the Texans. So some sharp money coming on the Texans, and I think I have to agree. I really like the Texans this week. I love them to win outright. I just think that there's nobody playing better at the quarterback position right now than CJ Stroud. As crazy as that sounds, that's a hot take, but statistically and then schematically and in terms of sheer worth to his team, CJ Stroud is certainly deserves to be, at least in top 3 consideration for MVP. So Give me the Texans at home with the upset against the Jaguars. I'll take it any day of the week. So, all right, hey, that wraps it up for the Thanksgiving special, guys. We appreciate you being here again. Sorry that we had to do this one solo, but Brendan couldn't make it due to the holiday travel. So we'll be back here next week to talk NFL Week 13.